Welcome back, guys. I be so creepy with it sometimes, but I just want to say welcome back. Where's the camera? Here we go. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to Yes I'm a Unicorn. You know what it is. You read the thumbnail, title, whatever. We're doing a 10-day check-in. We're at the beginning of a stride. Oh, sorry, we're at the beginning of a quest. So we're going 100 days up in here. Just following our dreams, like just one day at a time type of thing. Well, really 10 days at a time. So that's what this is all about. Basically, I'm about to take you through my first check in of this 100-day experiment. And I call it a quest, right? Because it's 100 days. We're checking in every 10 days. I've got some, directions of like where I would like to be or like end up. Like I have some ideal sort of like scenario outcomes and we're just gonna run experiments and check in every 10 days. And that's what this life is about. Okay. We're not, you know, we're not doing the most. I'm not doing some like I know people are doing this like 75 hard. I think that's cool too. That's kind of like um, you know, somebody trying something. So that's great. But this is not that. This is more so like, hey, I want to be a better writer. I want to be a better, I want to look into my, do things more healthily. I want to take better care of myself. I want to be a fun mom. I want to, fill in the blank. And then I set up an experiment and I run it. And I have these areas. You're going to see my little scorecard up here in a second. These areas of my life that are important to me. And, set up my experiment and I run it. Checking in every 10 days. I've probably said that like 15 times now. So I think we'll get started. But anyway, I really appreciate you joining me. I hope to gather a whole group of us and we're doing this together. It's not like we have to all share our information on the internet like I'm kind of doing, but just know that we're a community of people supporting one another. I should probably get some sort of like Discord or something going for those of us who really want to like encourage each other and talk about our challenges and wins and things like that. But yeah, I'm the first of us. And yeah, so I'm just gonna put it all out there. So let me pop this up here so we can really just, get this thing started. Okay. So what I normally would do, and I've said this in other check-ins, is that I would put it in this notebook. It's like a planner slash notebook, and I would check in and I would write it down. But as I've been sharing these, I've found it so convenient to just speak it out into Claude. um, so I've been using AI to generate my check-ins. Um, and it's been really useful, Not only am I able to like generate some visual that we can look at and that captures sort of what my takeaways were from each 10-day stride, but also they always add some extra little zhuzh in there when I put together my check-in like report. So it's always funny like what some of to read some of this. I'm kind of doing this live in terms of like I didn't detail out and like look at this really hard and say, oh, did they represent what I said correctly? I just spoke like they know my questions. I'm saying they, but Claude has a copy of the questions that I'm asking myself. I answer the questions and then it puts together this document for me. And sometimes it adds a little extra in there. So we're seeing it together. Let's jump right in, shall we? Okay. So for those of you who might just be meeting me via the internet, I have been doing this for a while. So like I've done this for years, to be honest with you. It's not consistently every 10 days for years, but I started something like this back in maybe 2020. And for the most part, whenever I'm reaching towards a goal, I kind of break things out in a 10-day sort of breakdown as opposed to like weekly. I just find it to be much more measurable and sort of clean. I like really round numbers. And so, anyway, you'll see that it's quest 2 because I documented my first 100 days from this year, which started, in March. And so now we're on the second quest, but it's the first 10-day stride. So here we go. So This time around, I would say the theme of this stride, we're going from June 11th through 20th here. It's like renewing my mind. Like I'm becoming a different version of myself. Like I already am seeing that. I'm already becoming someone else, which is great. I'm starting fresh and I really am learning to accept where I am right now. Like, especially in terms of like my health and things like that. It's like, okay, look, you have a strong body that's able to endure all of the things you put it through, all of the things that, happen to one's body. Like you are doing this and it doesn't serve me any purpose. Like it doesn't serve me any good to sort of pick apart like, oh, well, this is a perfect and that is a perfect. Like we know that. Okay. That's why we have goals. That's why we're running experiments. That's why we're doing the things that we're doing to improve. So I really have learned in this past maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, like I'm really learning, like, you know what? I'm good where I am. Like I can accept where I am. This is good enough, right? To start. And I actually really appreciate what my body can do. It's not perfect, and I don't think it's ever gonna be perfect, but it'll definitely improve, but the idea is that I'm not gonna beat myself down for what I am now because I mean, like, this is an amazing opportunity that I have. Like, I don't have any real, like, you know, thank God I don't have any real, um, you know, illnesses and I don't have any real like disease. I'm literally just trying to push myself to be better and to take better care of myself. But the person I show up as right now is good enough to start. I'm not ending here, but I also, I gotta appreciate who I am right now. And I do. I'm finally stepping into that. It's like this is good enough for everybody else to experience. I'm experiencing it and the way that I show up right now, it's hashtag good enough. Me and one of my coworkers say that a lot. But it's hashtag good enough. And I'll get more into that as we go over this because there were some things um that I was experiencing, like some thoughts that I was having in the last stride that I was like really having to talk myself down off of like, why are you talking to yourself like that? That's crazy. Like this is already, challenging enough without you trying to be negative. And I'm talking to myself. I'm like, why are you talking to us like that? It's like a group of people in my head. Like, why are you talking to all of us like that? There's a lot of us in here trying to live. Okay. Like, don't be coming in here with your negativity, lady. And so, yeah, we'll get into that more later, but let's just get started. Okay. So, for faith and devotions, and these are my areas of life that I have decided are my top focuses for this sort of like season of my life. So, faith and devotions. And I mean, Claude gave me like it prompted me to make some decisions in terms of numbers, and I literally just like went from the hip. There's not really that much sort of science that went into this like deciding these numbers. It's just kind of like a feeling and then actually Claude did do a good job of saying like, "Hey, you're not giving yourself enough credit for this. So like maybe you should, think about that." So that's really interesting. But these numbers are I feel good about these numbers. Like I feel good in terms of them being honest because it gives me room to grow. I know I'm not where I want to be and I know when I knock things out of the park and like I really like go for it that I'm going to give myself credit for that. So I'm okay with these numbers right now cuz I'm just starting. I'm just starting this part of this quest. Like I'm in the first 10 days. So or this was a recap of the first 10 days. So I'm not really upset about where I landed here. So let's go through the scorecard. Faith and devotion, 6. And we'll go through these in depth as we go through the areas, but we're just naming the numbers right now. Family care, 6.5. Environment and home care, 7. Personal growth and learning, 8. Self care and PIA stands for pride and appearance. That's a 7. And content creation, 5. Finance and income management, 7. Okay, now I'm saying all of this. This is only pertaining to June 11th through 20th. We're now, well into the second or to the next stride. So I'm in stride 2 currently as I'm reporting out on stride 1, and I've already seen some improvements in some of these areas. So I'm really excited about that, but that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the first stride. Okay. So the stride average is 6.6. Uh, you know, it actually, if you looked at the final stride of quest 1, like where the like most immediate stride, that the 10-day period that like preceded this, it's funny because there's an inverse happening. There was some things that I was like trying to accomplish to end that quest, to end that 100-day period, and I pushed really hard and I took a hit in the self-care, family care areas. And so this time, um, I can see that I went really, I didn't go really hard at anything this time. I just let things, naturally flow. But I can see where some of these numbers came up in certain areas and it went down in other areas, and that's fine. But I balanced, like I balanced it the way that I said that I would. So that's a testament to like just having systems in place for real. All right, let's go into the areas more in depth here. Okay, so faith and devotions. I've been taking in a lot of sermons and podcasts. I got this new illustrated Bible. It came back on the market because you know what? It was gone for a while. I couldn't find it anywhere, and now it's back. I'll just put this up here. It's actually one of the it was I think it was like it's a Holman Bible, but I think it was named something else before. And like I couldn't find it for a long time. Anyway, I got a copy of this and I've been really in this. I also have recently got this leadership Bible from John C. Maxwell. Created a version of the Bible where he kind of like has all of these breakouts about like leadership and applying leadership, like highlighting where leadership was demonstrated in the Bible. And I was in there a couple of times as well in this previous stride. So that was really it really is helpful. But anyway, got a new Bible, been listening to a lot of sermons, a lot of podcasts about faith. Um and you know what? This is really interesting. I was watching this podcast, and you know what? Now that I think of it, was it last Friday that I saw that? I don't even remember. Look, this lady, Dr. Lisa Miller, was on a podcast, and she was talking about how our brains are wired for worship. Like we're literally as humans, we're connected to we're built to worship, we're built to connect to the higher source of power and love, which is God. And just the same way that a child looks to their parent, to their mom or dad, for love, for connection, that's how we're wired to worship, or to connect to our creator. And I just thought that was so fascinating because I think a lot of people who are confused about their spirituality um, could benefit from that information. And this is Dr. Lisa Miller. She's in the psychology field, and she was saying that like studies were done to show that like we're all looking to connect to a loving source. And I even see it in our behavior with like, even celebrities or like, online personalities where we're looking to connect and be part of something that appreciates us. And a lot of times, especially with celebrities, people start to get into this sort of like worship mentality. And I mean, it's natural though. Like, I don't suggest you go worship an idol. I'm just saying that, like, it's the demonstrated science of what she was saying is real. And so it made me grateful that, like, I do have direction in that way. And when I'm trying to connect with God and do my devotions and like sit there and write out my prayer and memorize scripture, and it feeds me, it makes me feel good, it rewires my brain. It makes me a better person on a daily basis. It helps me to like, make sense of things. Like that faith that I have in God, it just like really supports like a healthy life and a healthy mindset and a healthy like it provides stability for my mental health. And so I thought that was interesting. But so anyway, the point is I was looking up things like that. I was really trying to connect the word to my life. And what I was doing was, and I still do this a lot, but I'll write down a scripture and I'll have it like on my desk while I'm working so I can remember like, hey, apply this scripture to your life. Like, don't just be a hearer of the word, like apply it, like actually do the thing that the word says. So and then I hit a couple of tough spots. And I remember, like, so what I'll do is I'll look up whatever I need at the time. Like, oh man, I really need to be patient through this. What does God say about patience? Or I really need to have faith in myself or faith in this process. Or I really need to be focused on, reaping, sowing, right? Like, so, not reaping, but you know what I'm saying. I really need to be focused on small beginnings. I really need to be focused on this, and I'll look something up and it'll be like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but I apply it and it works. It's like really interesting. So I did a lot of that in the first try. There's a lot of room to grow here because what I really like to do is be in the word on a daily basis and write out my prayer, write out my affirmation connected to scripture, write out my gratitude. I haven't been writing out my gratitude and I haven't been writing out my prayers. I've been praying really hard in my mind, right? But and then sometimes out loud, a lot out loud, but I haven't been writing it. And I really do miss that because, you know, the connection that your brain has to in the way we're able to think when we put when we actually handwrite things is something crazy. I just saw a video earlier on YouTube about this man that I subscribe to that he was saying that like writing the word in cursive, writing scripture out in cursive, does something to your brain. And I think he might be right. So I'm gonna try that. But anyway, I have room to grow here because I didn't write out a lot that I wanted to, but I did okay. I consumed the word. I consumed people speaking about the word and adding their expertise and stuff on it. So but I could do a little bit more studying. It's great that I have the Bible, the new Bibles that I got, but I got to get in them things, right? It's not enough to have the Bible. It's like I got to get in there and get out of it what is in there and apply it. So like it's one thing to have the Bible, then it's another thing to read the Bible, then it's another thing to actually say, oh, this is what the word says. Let me do that. And so, that's a very it's a very specific thing. But yeah, I have room to grow there, but I'm really excited to do that. And that's where we are. That's why I gave myself a 6 there. Family care. Look, I'm starting at a 5 all the time when everybody's fed, clothed, clean. Okay. When everybody, listen, it's a good day when, even if the house looks crazy, if everybody ate 3 meals and everybody has on clean clothes and they had a bath or shower, then listen, I did a pretty decent job. That's how I feel about it. Um, my son is eating really well. He's not missing no meals, okay? And he needs that energy because he's lifting heavy in the gym. I've never met a baby who lifts like this. I don't know why. But and then it's interesting because he has like really good form too. But everything he walks into, like everything, he always wants to lift something up. I think that's really interesting because I didn't teach him that. But yeah, I need to get on his level in terms of my workouts. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, he's eating very well. I did in that past stride, I let the meal prep slip. I caught up since then. I want to say that, but we're not talking about this stride. Okay. I let those meal preps slip in that last stride, that we're talking about right now. And we're talking about June 11th through the 20th. I had some though. Like here's what's interesting. When you do meal preps on a regular basis and then you refrigerate some and you freeze some, I was able to, I was able to hold solid on those frozen ones. I had a freezer backup, okay? But I did notice that, I didn't have everything that I normally would have. And that, it didn't take a toll because like we had what we needed, but it was getting kind of thin there. Okay. But I felt good about it. I will say that I need to be writing more. You're probably going to see this throughout. I need to be writing more on a daily basis about what actually occurred, because then what happens is when I come back and do my check-in and I don't have anything to reference, it's not like I'm making things up, but I just like remember some things and I don't remember other things. So things could have gone better or worse than I can remember. So when it comes to family care, like I know everybody ended up okay, but I didn't really have the notes that I probably needed to be able to say like what I did well or what could improve or what, anything like that. So I won't say I failed, but I failed in that aspect in terms of like taking good notes. And that's for everything. I was it was a lot of doing, but there wasn't a lot of like writing down, and so the reflection is going to be, it's going to suffer. The reflection is going to be whatever I can remember. But yeah, it's only 10 days. Like I think I remembered it. But anyway, so moving right along, environment and home, I almost underscored this, but as I was going back and recollecting, I was like, oh no, I did do a lot. I cleared my desk. We got through all the laundry. There was like 8 loads of laundry. We got through all of that. I created finally, my workout space. I had one cleared out and then it got messy again because of my son being here, just throwing everything on the floor. But I was able to keep the downstairs area tidy for the most part. We mopped. We had family over for the holidays. It was like the Juneteenth holiday, and I mopped the floor, which is like pristine for me. Like I never mop the floor. That's why I have help come in and help us every other week. But I mopped the floor. It was amazing that I did that. So I gave myself at least 1 point for that. Um, but yeah, when we have full schedules and everybody has to be somewhere with work and all that, it gets messy in here. But my husband pitches in so much. And so I can't even say pitch in, it's both of our jobs, but he does a really good, solid job at keeping like the kitchen looking decent and, keeping us like fed well as well, because he does a lot of our cooking. But anyway, I let myself count that shared effort because listen, we're taking care of each other around here. Okay. Let's move along. So personal growth and learning. I do think that so I gave myself an 8 here. And now I gotta really be honest. I bought 2 books. I didn't read a lot of them. I read the prologue in one of them and I mapped out a reading schedule, but I've been doing a lot of research. So I didn't read the books that I bought yet, but I've been doing, guys, I be on these internet streets. Do you understand me? Trying to find answers to the questions we all have. And I did a really good job. Um, well, I found the answers to the questions that I had, okay? And I implemented them things. So I felt good about that. And I did feel like I'm growing. And a lot of the personal growth I have to attribute to like following the word. Like I'm not gonna lie, there's some times where I'll read something and I'll be like, "What? Like this doesn't even feel like I don't want to do this." You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you mean? Like, be loving. I don't like this person, right? So, but I do it anyway and I grow from it. So, the only thing that oh no, not the only thing. I was going to say one thing that works for me is when I write things out. So sometimes I'll write out exactly what I'm looking for, because what'll happen is as I start to do research, if I'm just like, oh, research curtains, research blue curtains, and then I'll get all down a tangent on what is blue and what are curtains. And like that's not what I'm looking for. So like I need to have it written down so I can reference it. Like when I find myself and I catch myself getting like too far gone, I know exactly, oh no, I'm looking for this. I need to find out more about this, right? So, I mean, listen, you get a point for learning. Learning is learning, but I'm getting smarter and that's what it That's what it is. I've been learning a lot in my work, in my day work. So I've been like researching a lot there, but I didn't necessarily read the books that I bought for myself. I was doing a lot of learning for work. But listen, that's what I'm saying. Learning is learning. If it's work or not, I'm getting smarter. Okay, so self care for the win. Guys, this is going to be a whole. Let me just pull in closer here because I had some revelations during the stride. Okay, one of the things that I realized is that I'm, I'm never going to be perfect, but I listen to myself this stride. I was able to, because normally I would have been like, push yourself, go harder. This is what you said you were going to do it. And there were a couple of times there where I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take care of myself. I've been, I'm going to get to this in a second about the physical, like more water, eating cleaner and stuff like that. But there were times where I needed to just pause for my own mental health and just write out my thoughts, write out my to-do list, write out whatever's on my mind, some ideas, whatever. And I'll write these things out on index cards. Do I have them here? I even got the chance to paint, okay, because I've been painting. So what I'll do is I'll write out my thoughts, and I do this a lot for work, but I do it for my personal life too. I'll write out my thoughts on these index cards. I don't know if you can see how thick this is. Now, some of these are for work too, but some of these are for home. And what I'll do is these are all the cards. No, these are blank. Let me not misrepresent. These are all the cards that I wrote out. And some of these are after that stride, but these are all the cards that I'm working from. These are all the thoughts and ideas and to dos that I had. And I'll just let myself write out one per card. Sometimes I'll write two or three if they're like really related. But it's so helpful to me to do that. And so there were a couple of times there where I could have said, oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give myself what I need, which is time to sort out what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, why something is bothering me, and I'm gonna just take this time. There was a couple times last week where I launched into the day and I didn't really give myself that time, and I found myself at the end of the day like, well, I guess I got to get prepared for tomorrow. And in those moments, those especially there were at least 2 days I said, no, I'm going to give myself the time right now. I'm not going to think about that right now. I'm going to give myself some time. I'm going to go, paint, or I'm going to take a shower, and I'm going to just resettle, like reset. And I did that, and it was so helpful. And I think so many times in the past, I would just go, go, go and think like, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for me. I don't have time to, you know, and then the downstream effects of that are me being rude to people, me being rude to myself, me, neglecting parts of my mental health and personal care, and having to deal with those side effects, right? Whereas now I didn't do that this time, and it's made all the difference. I was able to show up where I needed to show up. And now check this, because sometimes you'll think to yourself, "Oh, I have to do this work. I have to spend my personal time doing this work so that I can be prepared when I get there." And it's interesting how, listen, I do have systems set up. So I am always, for the most part, I'm always doing what needs to be done. But like there were these two times that I'm thinking about in particular in the stride that I'm referencing, where I opted out of that. I said, no, this is my personal time. It was either like a night or weekend. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that work right now. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna take this time right now for me. And then when I show up at work, and then I'm gonna do the work, right? Instead of like preparing beforehand. Now look, everybody gotta do what works for them. And there have been times in the past where I felt like I couldn't do that, like I had to do the work. This particular time, it benefited me so much to take this time for myself, because what I realized is that when I showed up to do the work, even though I felt like, oh, I got to rush and do this, it came out so easily because I had taken that time for myself. I taken that time for myself. I felt completely sort of like full and present with what I was bringing to the table. And even though I felt like, okay, I really have to do this first, like the work got done. The work got done. I didn't have to spend my personal time on it. I was able to come as a whole fed being in terms of like my soul was fed. I took the time for me to paint, to read, to just, to nap. I did some things there that I don't normally do, and I benefited from it. So I really learned that it's useful. It's not useful. It's even just like necessary. So I had a real win in the self care area. I just really listened to myself instead of pushing myself, which I normally do. And then there were the physical wins. I drank more water. I'm eating cleaner foods. Like I'm still indulging in some things. Like I have a problem with these chocolate chip cookies, but I didn't do that in this stride. But I'm working through. Okay. I was able to deep condition my hair. We went on 3 walks in that stride, y'all, 3 family walks, and that is really good because it was coming up from 0. I did get some exercise in addition to that, and I gave myself just the mental reset that I needed because I needed to get organized. So that's what I was telling you about those index cards. And sometimes it just takes for me to sit down and, like, just empty my brain, and I call it a brain sweep. And I'm just like, okay, let's clean every corner. What's in here? Right? Like, okay, you thinking about this, you're thinking about that, whatever's on my mind, even if sometimes it's redundant and like I write the same thing on like 2 or 3 cards, that's fine. I just get everything out and then it's like in this stack. And now I can do something about it, right? Because now once you get it out of your mind, and I just keep showing you the stack because I really am proud of it. And some of this stuff I already did, and it's in another pile. Because what I'll do is I'll take those things and I'll like as I get done with something, I'll put it away. But like having these index cards really helps me to prioritize. First, the first thing that it does is it gets it off my mind, right? It's like I'm dumping everything out, and then and then there's something about having one card at a time. You can only do one thing at a time, okay? Unless you're thinking about like laundry or whatever. Like, yeah, you can have a load going, have something in the oven, and be doing something else. That's one way to look at it. But for the most part, when you're using your brain and your hands, you can only really do one thing at a time. And that's where when I write those cards out, I'm able to focus and say, okay, these are for me to focus on right here and right now. And then these other ones, they're here, but they can wait. Right. And then so that's really helpful to me. But yeah, I don't this is what I learned too. I don't owe anybody more than I owe myself. Like the financial experts say pay yourself first, like when you're saving and you're investing or whatever. It's like, okay, when you get your income, you pay yourself first, right? Or you tithe first or you save, you know, you do those things first and then you go into, paying your expenses and doing those things. I think that's the same truth for the way you spend your other resources, like your attention, right? I want to pay attention to myself first because I have to maintain a level of sanity to deal with all the other things that are coming at me. And it can seem so challenging because these things are so bright and flashy and loud and it's like well, you better do this and there's all these fears and you know sort of consideration of consequences. If you have systems running and people are you have some sense of like psychological safety and physical safety of course, then you have some leeway there. You need to take care of yourself, especially if you find yourself sort of like burnt out or in a brain fog. You cannot sustain that healthily. You got to take some time for yourself. So I noticed last in this last drive, like I need to pay myself first. Right off the top. So that's what I did. Fitness setup, space is set up. So that's really good. And next focus is my strength training, which I've already started to focus on. But anyway, that's the stride. We're still talking about the stride right here. Stride one. So, okay, content creation. Look, I didn't do it. What I did do was the background behind the scenes work, like some research. I just came off that launch and I just was like, you know what? I skipped a podcast and now I skipped the second one, which, seems detrimental, but it's really not. Okay, because the real things that are happening to me in my brain need my attention. And if I don't have that, then I can't build something on top of it. I can't build something on no foundation. And so I put the the importance where it needed to be. Okay. So yeah, but at the same time I was still like writing out my ideas, going back with ChatGPT and Claude and like I built out a SB okay, so I call it a SBT, but I built out basically like a system. So when I batch film or whatever, like I know where I am, I know what needs to happen. So that's a really big thing actually when we're thinking about content creation. But in terms of actually creating content, I did not create and well, I did not upload anything. I did do some like some vlog footage, but I did not upload anything. I just built some of the infrastructure and I was doing some research and study. So look, it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't like my best, right? But I've also been painting and really just like these cards and like this is what my content is about. Like creating the space to do your best. And so I was behind the scenes doing my best. And so I guess that will become content. So, I didn't create and upload anything, but it's coming and I'm well taken care of. All right, we're almost done here, guys. Finance and income management. I surprised myself with the amount of restraint I show myself because I realized that sometimes, like when I'm ordering something, because I was like, oh, I got a text about a sale or an email about, oh, this thing is, available now. It's like, okay, sometimes I was buying stuff just so I could look forward to having something coming. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like something that happens when you are anticipating getting a package and it's like something like really good to look forward to. And so if I'm stressed out about something or whatever and I order something, then it's like, oh, something's coming for me, right? You get that box and you're like, yeah, I got a package, So anyway, there's something psychological to that I haven't really like really delved into, but I've recognized that like, okay, that's a crutch because I noticed it because when I wasn't doing it, I was like missing it, right? So I'm like, oh, there's something to explore there. But for right now, I did build some carts. Not gonna lie, I was like, oh, this thing is on sale. Let me go put this in my cart. What else do they have? And then I was just like, okay, click out of this whole screen. So I did do that a couple of times where I was about to buy something, and then I was like, nope, don't do it. Don't do it, girl. there's this, there's this audio clip around on the internet where be like, don't do it, girl, don't do it. And that's kind of like what I play for myself in my head. Like, yeah, don't do it. Just don't buy it. You don't need that. So and I've been staying on top of like my tracking of my expenses. I got a real simple spreadsheet that I created of like all my recurring expenses, and I've been really staying on top of it. So I'm really proud of myself for that. So the spending um has been limited and I'm proud of myself. All right, so let's go through the wins and the frictions and all that. So the wins, my self-care is on track. I was able to do some physical things like deep condition my hair, more water, the walks, some exercise. Uh it's real. It's a true recovery from skipping it in the last 10-day period. So I think, and Claude is saying that the deeper win is the awareness. So, like, I now know what my needs are, right? And like, I know I even have a card that I wrote out, like, no matter what, on a regular basis, I need these things. And they're things like 100 ounces of water, a workout per day, a shower, nails painted, which I don't necessarily need that. But basically, the reason for me to the time to paint, time to write, a tidy bedroom, a tidy kitchen, these are things that are like just reminding me when I'm sitting there thinking I have time to scroll or I'm sitting there trying to figure out like what's got me down. I can be doing some of those things because those are the things that I need to feel good about everything. So I made that card out. And so now I know what my needs are. So then because some of those things they could go by the wayside and then you look up after several days and they're not in place, but everything feels wrong because they're not in place. So that's why I was like, I took the time to write down, like, what are my needs? I need to make sure these things are happening so that I can be whole, right? So that I can have a wholesome experience. So I encourage you to do the same. Write down, what are your needs? What do you need on a regular basis? It doesn't have to be every single day, but like on a regular day, like what are some of the things that you need to be in place in order to feel good about what you're doing? I think that's really important. Look, another thing that I did is when I say I painted, I got this gouache out of the garage because I had this gouache that when we moved, I just never, and I was scared that it was not going to be good for those, but it was good. um, and I just painted on index cards. Like I didn't even use any fancy like watercolor paper or anything, and I have some in there, but I didn't want it to be that serious. I didn't want to be like, oh, it has to be pretty. I was just the act of like putting my paintbrush in that paint and like using some water and thinning some parts out and just expressing myself. I got some over here too where I just painted anything and it felt so good. And then what I did after that was then I'll just write on these index cards and that's what I was writing on. But it was like a way for me to enjoy doing the art and then I just let it dry and then I wrote on top of it. But it was like a self-expression experience and it's like me just painting, it just feels good. Um so anyway, it was joyful. Um but yeah, and then I got my template out for my content and I got a reading schedule down and I got the spending restraint. Look, all this stuff is a win. The clear spaces, being prayerful, all of this is a win. The friction is not writing enough. I capture a lot of things for my work. Um and normally that's not, I mean, like I do write a lot of stuff down for work, but like for the most part I don't have that same discipline in my personal life. And so then whenever I have to report out like this, I tend to forget a lot of what happened. So sometimes my strides feel like really really bad, like oh my god, I didn't do any of this. And then as I start to remember, I'm like, wait a minute, I did do that. So I can get better about writing things down. And the strength training last stride, it didn't happen because the space needed clearing, but I got the space clear. So it's like sometimes you just see, you got to just take it one step at a time. You know what I'm saying? You can't, Rome wasn't built in a day. So now that I got that done, it's like now we're going to, get down to business. Okay, observation. Okay, this is more about the writing things down. Um and also writing things down is a form of accountability because there's only so many times you're gonna write something down and then not do it. So I feel like or not reflect on it. So even when I don't do what I said I was gonna do, writing down that I didn't do it is a form of accountability for me. So I just really need to get in the practice of writing. And then now I'm really curious about this cursive writing stuff that I've been looking up. So I haven't even been looking up, it's come to me. It's come to my attention that like writing in cursive, there's more to it um than maybe what I had considered. So look, I'm gonna be writing more down in this stride. And I already have started. Um but yeah, the observation really that came out of this is like if I'm working so hard and I can't stop to enjoy my life, then it doesn't make any sense. Like rest is a part of what makes things sustainable. And if I can't rest, like, if I have to go so hard and I can't rest, then that's not the life that I want. Right? So like everybody has to accept here's what I want to say. Everybody has to accept this version of me that gets paid off the top. Like I'm not showing up no more giving people what they want and not getting what I want. That's just that person doesn't she doesn't live here anymore. I'm taking my percentage off the top when it comes to my attention, my time, my talent. I'm taking what I need first, and then we're just going to have to work with what I present after that, which I do believe is going to be better than, you know, what I was presenting before. I think me showing up well rested, well, well read, well taken care of is going to be a better version of me for everyone else to enjoy and get their ducats out of whatever I'm giving. But even if there's some sort of like gap, right? Like between like this shift that I'm doing, whatever I'm presenting to people in terms of like what I'm presenting to you after I've taken what I need for myself, that's going to have to be good enough. That's just going to have to be good enough for everybody, because that's where the self-acceptance comes in. Is like I'm in a place where I'm not going to offer anybody more than I offer myself. I got to get some of this for myself. And then I've got to protect that time and that resource for me, and then everybody just has to be okay with what they get right now, especially in this transition process of me really understanding that that's a necessary thing to do. And I hope this is making sense. But anyway, so my opportunity is to continue taking baby steps. Um, it's really challenging to do everything perfectly. So what I've noticed is like, I'll go hard in one area and then another area slips. But I'm not gonna try to scramble to go hard in the next area. Everything is just gonna have to come up one little baby step. Like I just gotta just distribute that consistency. And like I said, this is the part of like you're just gonna have to take what you get type of thing, because I have to I have to make sure that I have what I need and do a little bit every day. And then I'm using my timetable. It's called the Timmy Tango timetable. There's a link in the description where you can purchase a copy of it. But what I do is I see on the left side, on the left column, like what I need to do in a regular day, and then I come to the day that I'm in, and I say, okay, this is a Tuesday, and so well, it's actually a Friday, but just say it's a random Tuesday. It's like this is what I need to do today in order to get um my areas of responsibility covered. So these are the things that I'm going to focus on, but I also have other things that have popped up or I need something, right? So using that as a resource has really been working. Um, but yeah, I think as an entry point for me writing things down, I'm just going to take like a couple of minutes every 3 hours just to write down what just happened. And I have a little notebook here that I'm going to do it in. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. So it's the theme for the next experiment is just a little bit of everything. Nothing's a push. Nothing's a, a really big like hard like sell. Everything's just really calm, focused. I'm gonna get some resistance training in. I've been taking care of myself. I'm getting a little content in, and everything's just gonna build. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how we're gonna do this. So yeah, and the real big thing that I'm really focused on is just writing things down more often. So I'm already doing pretty well with that, but I could always do better. So yeah, and this is the grace check. I guess Claude put this in there for me, but yeah, I did. This is when everything turned around. To be honest with you, so maybe this is important that I do mention this. The reason that I realized that I needed that self care time was that I caught myself being mean to myself in my head. Like I caught myself talking to myself crazy. And I mean, everybody probably has this, but maybe they don't. But I'm gonna tell you what I experienced. Sometimes I have these like really cringy moments, like self cringe, where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Oh my god, I'm so this, I'm so that. Um, and I realized that that's not helpful. I realized it. It was one morning, like, I was laying in bed, and I always wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, and I just be praying real hard, and at some point, I was, like, talking crazy to myself. "Oh my god, that wouldn't happen if you weren't like this." And it wasn't, and, like, all the things I'd be cringing over, it just be stuff that, like, either happened, like, years ago, or it's stuff that, like, I really couldn't have any control over. So it's like, "What are you doing?" I caught myself in the moment, and I was like, "This is who you are. Like, why are you talking to yourself like this?" This is who you are right now. It's fine that you want to improve, but don't talk to us like this. We don't like this. This isn't helping anyone in this head, right? There's several of us who live in here. This isn't helping any of my personalities to be talked to in this way. And so I don't want you here talking to us like this. And I was like, this is not where I need to be focusing my energy. So I needed to protect myself from that sort of like negative talk and negative thinking. And I was continuing to pray and look, I'm on a new thing right now. I feel good about where I'm going with this. And you'll see on the next check-in. This one I actually did a little later than I wanted to because we're already like well into this next stride. But look, I'm just a person trying to do good in the world, trying to do a good job at all my responsibilities. And I want to treat myself well. Like I don't need to be mean to myself. So it was really interesting. Okay, now look. Now I've talked about my stride. I hope you guys will join me in running these little tiny life experiments. I think I'm going to come on later this weekend and talk about how I build systems, how I write things down on cards, and how it all comes together as a process. Um, but right now, what I want to do is I want to share with you. Ooh, okay, yeah. I was like, what am I doing? I was trying to click on something. But I want to share with you something that I came up with that I use myself. And um, this is a this is a link to my stand store where you can get your digital version of what I use myself, which is the Timby Tango timetable, where I can see all of my time, for the month and for the year, and I can kind of decide where my time goes. And so if I want to be a runner, or if I want to be a writer, if I want to be whatever, then it should show up on my schedule. And this is like the tool that gets me there. So there's a timetable, there's a time tracker, there's a bundle, there's some things in there too that are freebies. But if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to my stand store, to the Inject God stand store where me and my husband are, we have some products in there for you guys. But anyway, yeah, just wanted you to have that. But listen, thank you so much for listening to my stride check-in. So the next time you see me, we'll be talking about some systems. We'll be talking about how to build systems. And yeah, so I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Thanks for joining me. See you later. Bye.